Hello, I'm Beth Schaefer, member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. I am here today with candidates running for the Miamisburg School Board. The candidates are Nila Getter, Brent Masters, Jason Edward Mowery, Scott A. Taylor, Catherine Ann Wincheck. Unfortunately, Mr. Masters, Mr. Taylor, and Ms. Wincheck are not available to participate today due to their previous commitments. We will start the interviews by giving each candidate 1 minute to tell us about themselves and why they want to serve on the Miamisburg School Board. So we will go ahead and start with Nila.
Hello, my name's Nila Getter, and I have lived in Miamisburg almost my entire life. I'm a graduate of Miamisburg High School, and the reason I want to serve is because I've spent my entire life serving. I'm a registered nurse, and I've worked at Kettering Health for over 40 years. This is another opportunity for me to serve, and that's my entire desire. I want, because we know that the students are the future of our community. So we need to invest in our schools and our students so that we can have a great community in the future.
Thank you. Jason, you have the opportunity to tell the audience why you're a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the Miamisburg School Board.
Thank you. You know, I had some prepared remarks that I ended up wadding up and throwing in the floorboard of my truck on my way here today. Today has such a historical significance in our country. Because 22 years ago, 3,000 people died in our country under a terrorist attack. And since then, 3,000 first responders died trying to protect them. 8,000 contractors died in theater overseas. 7,000 veterans died. And 31,177 service members returned home from war with PTSD and ultimately and very sadly committed suicide. So as I was driving here today with the significance of it being 9/11, I couldn't help but feel humbled. And as a patriotic American, to have the opportunity to come here today to represent Miamisburg and my community with a patriotic, traditional, common sense approach that was afforded to me by those people's sacrifice. And I thought it was important to start with that.
Thank you. Let's go ahead then and I want to inform you that we are going to ask a series of questions. You will each have 2 minutes to answer those questions, and then we're going to move on to the next candidate so that they will have that same opportunity. So the first question is, describe the role of a school board member as you see it. And I'm going to let Jason go ahead and start this one.
Sure. As I see the principal role of a school board member is serving oversight on behalf of the taxpayers. We all pay a lot of money in tax dollars, and having kids in the district myself that are active and taxes that are high myself within the district, I feel it's critically important for people within the district to oversee our schools so that our tax dollars are being spent in a way that is consistent to our values, consistent to our desires as parents. All those things are very important, and overseeing every aspect of our government operations within our schools and serving that oversight authority is critically important. And I think it's a huge responsibility that anybody on the Board of Education has on behalf of voters.
Okay, thank you. Nila, you have the same question. Describe the role of a school board member as you see it.
Well, the school board members must work at all times in the best interest of the students and the employees of the district, including the parents, of course. When I say students, I mean their families. They have to be able to hold confidences, and they have to be able to work with the highest integrity. The school board's responsibility is to make policy and to set goals for the district, to work within the funds that we have to follow the state and federal laws and the policies set forth by the Ohio State Board of Education. It's very important that we stay within those guidelines, but we also want to be open to new ideas, and we want to be good communicators. So I believe that the school board is overseeing, like Jason said, it oversees the functions of our school district. We worked very closely with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and the treasurer to make the great things happen that we want to happen in the Miamisburg School District.
Thank you. The next question, as a school board member, how will you address parents' concerns? And Nila, I'm going to let you start this one.
Okay, I'm very willing to partner with parents and guardians regarding anything about their student. I will encourage any parent that has concerns to follow the chain of command, as it were. I would encourage them to speak to the teacher first, and then to go to the principal, and then to go to the superintendent, and then, of course, to bring any unresolved concerns to the school board.
Okay, thank you. Jason, as a school board member, how would you address parents' concerns?
Directly and thoroughly. Just like Nila said, there's a hierarchy of authorities that parents need to go through before. The school board is the ultimate authority over the school district, but as an oversight role, again, I want to be available to the parents. And if a parent brings me something that's of concern, even if they may have skipped some of the steps of hierarchy within the district, I'll respond with them directly and make sure that they get in touch to the person within our district that's the appropriate means to start the conversation that's necessary with them. But I think what's more important is that I'm actively involved in tracking that conversation, copied on the memos, made aware of it, and always available for follow-up with people from the community. My own personal experiences, when I've reached out several times, and I understand, I've reached out myself with things that concern me as a taxpayer and as a lifelong Miamisburg resident. And, there seems to be a hesitancy for communication from the board, but there always is a administrator presence that responds back. And I personally think that administrators don't speak on behalf of elected officials. I think elected officials need to directly represent the people within their government instead of representing the government to the people. And I think that active, engaging conversation that is ongoing, and I don't think that responsibility can be delegated to an administrator. I think we owe that to the voters, as a matter of fact. So that's something that's the perspective that I will bring to the table. And that's exactly how I would handle it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The third and final question is, what do you see as the most important issues facing your school district? So I'm going to let you start this one then, Jason.
Absolutely. I think the most important issues that's facing our school district at the moment is fiscal oversight. In 2017, we had a $7.2 million emergency levy that'll be expiring soon. And in 2019, a $7.2 million emergency levy. And in 2017, another emergency levy for $6.6 million, and that expires 12/31 of this year. At the time, the Board of Education sent everybody out in 2019 that our priorities, because of the needs for these emergency funds, was to keep a watchful eye on all spending and to begin to make difficult decisions about cutting spending so that emergency levies weren't needed. That's the first thing that I would look at as a board member, is I want to see over the past 4 years where those cuts have been made, because our board made a commitment to the voters that that was a priority. And I think it's important to look based upon a trust but verify perspective, if you will, to give the administrators a chance to show us where they have defined and actually made those cuts before going back to the voters and asking for more money.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Well,
Niall, what do you see as the most important issues facing the school district?
Well, I see a couple right off the bat, and one is actively monitoring our funding, state and federal funding that's coming into the district, utilizing any type of grants that we can so that we can save the voters money. But we also need to remember we have a lot of buildings and properties that we have to maintain, that we have to keep up, and we want to also keep our salaries at a level so that we can recruit and retain excellent teachers and principals and other employees in our school district, because we all know that if we don't have good schools, then the property values are going to drop. No one wants to move into Miamisburg. So we've got to keep our schools, we've got to maintain them, and the funding is very important. We've got to stay on task with that. Another situation that I think that could be a situation that we need to be monitoring, and it is the learning that was lost by some students during the COVID and during the time when the pandemic was going on and students didn't have active classroom interaction. We may need to provide some additional resources for those students. So we've got to stay on top of that. That's really important. We don't want any student to be left behind in any way.
Thank you. Now, what we'll do is let each of you have a minute to do a closing statement. And I'm going to let Jason start this one.
thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and tell the community about myself. One of the things that brought me to this place is out of a necessity. The necessity to preserve the traditional values of my community. And although I understand there is a need for federal grant funding, those federal grants often come with caveats and requirements that, when I started to understand them myself, were extremely concerning. Specifically, the sexual content exposure onto children. And I don't feel that it's ever appropriate to have any words of any sexual meaning to be projected onto children while they're at school, unless a parent consents that to happen. That seems like a very common sense thing, but as my kids come home from school themselves and share stories with me, it seems to me that the actual events that are happening in school are quite contradictory to that common sense. And it's really concerning to me, because when you reach out to the district, it seems as if it's driven by those federal grant requirements, and that's deeply concerning to me.
Thank you. Nila, then you have an opportunity.
Well, I want to thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to participate. I really appreciate it. I am the incumbent. I was not elected to the board, but I was chosen to fill a position that was open, and I started on the board in April. And of course, I'm learning every day. But I do have a vested interest in what's going on in our community and our schools. I can guarantee to the voters that I will do the right thing, what I believe is the right thing for the right reason at the right time, that I'll use critical thinking skills and common sense as I participate on the board. I do want to say that at this time, I believe that we have an excellent board that truly puts the students first, and that's what it's all about. Like I said before, if we don't have good schools, then it really affects our community.
Okay, thank you both for your participation today.
Thank you.
Good luck in your campaigns. The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. The annual Voters Guide will be distributed mid-October in the Dayton Daily News, the AIM Media suburban newspapers, and at local libraries, schools, and businesses. Early voting for the upcoming election begins on October 11 at your Board of Elections, or you can request an absentee ballot. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters only if you do vote. And help make our democracy work. The League also wishes to thank the wonderful staff at Miami Valley Communications Council for their assistance today.